Welcome to the Longest Take podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Longest Take podcast. In today's episode, we are joined by Amber Potter, somebody whose work involves painting the props that you might see in movies or TV shows. You may have seen some of her work in the Fallout TV series or the Dune movies. Please welcome Amber to today's episode. To kick things off here, tell me what your top 5 favorite movies are.
All right. So this is, I think, I mentioned it to you the other day. It really doesn't change. And if you see me looking over it, I did take notes on your questions and stuff because I can be very chaotic and not on point.
Yeah, no worries.
So for sure, doesn't ever change. It's always been Tommy Boy is my number one movie ever. I think that movie is almost perfect in what it is trying to be. It's
right.
It's the story structure is so. It's just like the perfect story. It tells the perfect story. It hits all the beats. It's hilarious. I love buddy comedy stuff like that. So that's definitely my number one. Cry every time I watch it. Because it hits a spot, and it's a movie I put on the airplane almost every time.
Yeah, and Chris Farley, right? So you got one of his best if not his best. So
to me, it's like his best movie.
Yeah,
there's nothing that even comes close. He also didn't get to be the star of many things, and it was his movie. And then Monty Python and the Holy Grail is a close second. That just is a infinitely quotable movie for me. I just love that movie. I like British humor a lot, and that one in particular, I remember when I was a kid not really understanding almost any of the jokes, but it also is silly enough that I thought it was really funny. It's one that my family quotes a lot. Then The Jerk with Steve Martin. I love Steve Martin so much. He is my favorite actor. I'll watch anything he's in. A lot of his movies are some of my favorites. That movie is ridiculous. The plot is so ridiculous. I mean, the plot for all of these is ridiculous, but it's just he is such a hilarious man, and I mean he wrote a lot of his own jokes and all that.
What's The Jerk about? I think that might be one of the only ones I haven't seen on your list.
How do I even really explain it? He's really a really silly character in it. Basically, he's just kind of dumb, but he I don't even know how to explain it. It's so silly. He basically it grows up in a family, and he is white, and it's a black family, but he doesn't for some reason realize that he's adopted. I don't know. Yeah. But that's only the first 5 minutes of the movie. But the point is that he grows up, and then he's I gotta go out and find my purpose. I gotta go find my purpose in life. And it's basically just an adventure story of what he does when he leaves home for the first time. And I mean, he leaves home for the first time when he's in his 30s. Yeah. And so it just gets into a lot of stuff, and it's just really silly hijinks kind of movie.
Yeah.
Very good though.
And Steve Martin's great, so yeah, I imagine.
It's fantastic. So then Spaceballs is also just so high up there for me. I love that movie so much. I had never seen Star Wars for the longest time. I didn't see Star Wars until I was way older. It was never interesting to me. I think when I was a kid, I actually didn't even know what Star Wars was. I didn't understand that was a thing. I just knew Spaceballs. Wow. I don't think I even knew it was a parody movie at the time, but I love Mel Brooks. So several of his movies are high up there for me. But that one's very, very funny. And then Three Amigos is my fifth one, which is another Steve Martin. these are all movies that I just watched like infinitely as a kid and just absolutely died laughing, even though I didn't understand half of it. It's still they're all just so silly, and it works for a kid. So a lot of them come with nostalgia for me, but I did want to give some honorable mentions that are not just these silly movies that I love, but it's a couple of my other favorites, just completely random. Mandy is a more recent one.
Oh yeah, Nick Cage. Yeah, that one's wild. I love how it looks too. It's
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
Freaking love that movie. I'm getting the poster coming in the mail soon, and I just watched it the other day. I love that movie. I also love La La Land. I love musicals.
I see
like
that picture in the background, that frame you got up
Oh,
top.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I drew that.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's colored pencil. It was a lot of work, and I don't know if I'll ever do it again, but it was very fun. And then my final honorable mention is the Saw series.
Oh,
That is like integral to my working in the industry for sure. So I love those movies.
Yeah.
So,
and it's, well, hopefully they continue it. There's stuff going on about Saw 11, but if it happens, I mean, they hit a pretty good stride in Saw 10. Like they did a really good job of like bringing it back, I think. So hopefully they get to
I really liked Saw 10. I did not care for the Spiral, and I didn't care for Jigsaw, but that's pretty big consensus among the Saw fans. But this last one was really good, so I hope it pulls through. I really hope so.
Yeah, Tobin Bell's just getting older. You gotta take advantage of it now, you know.
Yeah.
But awesome, yeah, very, very diverse selection of movies you got there.
Some of them.
And a good focus on comedy. I think that's important too, because you want to watch stuff that makes you feel good, right?
Yeah,
and those
I think
are all
what
very,
it's all about for me.
very comfortable movies, and also very funny.
So funny.
So love that. So let's get into what you do. So like, what is your role? And like, I guess what's the company that you work for, and what is it that you guys do and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, so I am a local 44 union prop maker. That's like my technical title, I guess. And I work at a company called Studio Art and Technology, and it is based in Chatsworth. It's in the San Fernando Valley in LA. We just relatively recently moved to like a building there. We were in Sunland at our parent company. It's called ISS, for Independent Studio Services, and it's basically it's a prop house. It is actually, and I couldn't find out if this is factual or not, because I see it either called one of the largest prop houses in the world or the largest prop house in the world. It's absolutely massive. It is ginormous. I don't even think that I ever walked through all of it. I would take people there for like tours, but we never walked through the whole thing because it just was too big.
Wow.
But yeah, so I started there technically at ISS, and then I moved to the sister company SAT, and SAT is more of the manufacturing side. So versus ISS is just like the prop house that just has the props that they rent out, and they also do like graphics and expendables and things like that. But SAT is just like fabrication. So I am in the paint department. I always have been, and that's why it's kind of interesting. In the union, it's just called a prop maker, but I before would just be like, well, I'm a prop painter, because that's really all I do is like paint stuff. But yeah, we do like everything start to finish on props there. So like someone will come to us with an idea, they go to a salesperson, and that salesperson, directs it through the channels. But we do everything from like designing it to modeling it to we do like 3D printing, and we do mold making. Like we have a whole mold room. We do metalwork, woodwork, electronics, mechanical stuff. We do everything. So start to finish. And we ship like all over the world. Like the most recent thing I can think of that was like all far away was the Dune movies, which were shooting in Budapest. The second one was shot in Budapest, and
Right.
so we were shipping. I mean, I think there was like maybe it was stopping at other places or something, but yeah, that was wild to think. Oh, making these props for something going all the way over there. But yeah, then basically I just, I follow the lead of whoever tells me, oh, here's the job. It's my manager usually. Say, here's the next thing. Here's the concept art. Here's what you need to know, and do your thing. And so then I just try to make it match as best as I can to what they are looking for. So that's basically what I do.
Nice. That's awesome and super fascinating. How many people, I guess, like, so for the painting department that you're in, so how many people make up that department then? If you guys are this large conglomerate basically of prop making, how many people are employed then, estimated, I guess?
Like, so do you think you're asking like in the whole company or
the sister?
Paint?
Or you know what? Yeah, let's start there. Just the paint then.
Just the paint department.
Yeah.
So it also really depends on like how busy we are. There have been points where we had, I want to say like almost 10 people working in paint at once, but that was like pre-COVID, honestly. That was crazy times. It was so freaking busy, especially because we haven't recently as much, but we worked on a lot of Marvel and just Disney, and it was a huge bulk of our work. But now we let's see, I think we technically have like 6 people, but only 3 of us are like dedicated painters. The other 3 are also like cleanup crew.
I gotcha. And
Yeah.
then let me see. So you talked a little bit about how higher ups, they'll get like, do they get a contract, or are they just like, is it like a customer supplier type thing then? How does someone come across your company and then make that purchase? Is it like a studio just outsourcing? I mean, yeah, just from a logistical.
Yeah.
Sorry, I come from.
No, it's fine.
I work for a chemical company, so a big piece of like how everything works there, it's like, you got supplier, customer, blah blah blah. So logistically, I mean, how does that look with you guys?
Yeah, no, totally. So I would say like a lot of our customers are just repeat at this point. Like they just already know us because this ISS has been around for a pretty long time, and it is just like has such a huge reputation that it's just kind of inevitable that when someone's looking for a fabricated prop, like custom, they're gonna end up going to us. But I mean, there's lots of other fabrication shops. We're just like one of the bigger ones. And in terms of like how the purchasing happens, it's usually directly the prop master that reaches out. And yeah, again, I mean, we know a lot of them really well just already. I don't even really ever hear about someone coming that's new to us.
I gotcha. And how many competitors do you have in the area?
Oh, I don't know about that, honestly. I mean, so I did forget to mention this in response to your question, is that there is, if it's a larger project, there can be kind of a bidding war.
Okay.
So, but that's not frequent. That's for something like really big, and if the production is just probably on a really tight budget and they want to, doesn't even have to be on a tight budget. It could be also that they are just not sure which shop they want to go with. So that does happen sometimes, but I would say in general, we don't really view the other shops as competing. Often we'll end up working with them a lot. I mean, I don't myself directly, but I do know there are a lot of jobs sometimes where like we do half of the work and another shop does the other half of the work. Just depends on what the customer is looking for. But yeah, there's quite a few fabrication shops, but it's not one of those situations that like is really advertised. So I'm not super familiar with how many there really are, honestly. I just know that we are a very well-known one. So
Right. And it's been around for a long time, correct?
yeah, it's been around for quite a while. I hear I know we did, and this was back in the 80s, I guess. Pretty sure we did RoboCop. Did stuff
Cool.
for RoboCop. Is that and I have not seen it. I'm so sorry
what?
if I'm
Oh my God.
I know. I'm not super sci-fi fan, but I know I should watch it. But is there like some sort of like a boot? Like the boot that I'm pretty sure there is like a boot that like magnetizes to the ground or something like that. They use the same. They use it in Deadpool also, and they use it in the Super Mario Brothers movie. Anyways, we made those way back in the 80s when I was not alive yet. So
yeah, that's awesome though, to at least like have that history with the company, to have that history.
Yes, it's very cool.
I need to double check because I love RoboCop, but I need to pay attention, and that kind of leads me into another question. How well do you notice props that come from you guys when you're watching a movie? Like, say you watch Dune or something, are you just like, oh, I remember that?
That's all I sit and do when I watch those movies, and it's very distracting. Just because honestly, that's what like makes it all worth it sometimes.
Yeah.
Is that you see it on the screen and you go, oh my God, like millions of people are watching that thing that I literally like painted with my bare hands. Like it's my favorite part. I would say that for sure, like the highlight for me was when Fallout finally came out, the first season. That was like one of the most exciting things because it was like 2 years later and I had just been waiting, and it was just so much fun. It was so much fun to work on that show. And I know people were jealous once it came out. People in the industry were jealous. They're like, we want to work on this show. Everybody wanted to work on it.
I loved it too. That was a great first season. It was awesome.
But that whole show, I was like waiting for certain things.
So
and then they would come up and I'd pause it and go, look, that's that thing that I made.
Did you work on like a lot of the stuff in the show? What are some of the items, I guess we could talk about Fallout? What are some of the big things there that you worked on that you were able to see?
Yes. So the I don't know a lot of the technical names because I never played the Fallout games, but I'm generally familiar. The like soldier guys, the T.
Like the big suits, you mean?
Yeah,
okay.
Those guys.
I forgot what they're called too.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the game, but
they're like the Brotherhood of something.
The Brotherhood of Steel. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
So their weapons, they have that like big, round, cylindrical gun that they're carrying around. It's freaking massive, and it was called the assault rifle. I did a lot of those. I mean, I did like come up with the paint scheme and all that. I did have to have some help some days, but I mean, I think we just made so many, and because they get beat up. Things get beat up when they're getting used like that on sets. So I did like a ton of those, and this is like a hidden thing kind of. They had a junk jet, and it was just like on the wall, like as a display piece basically. But I did that, and it was so fun to paint. And then just like various random weapons. I did the colors for Mr. Handy. I didn't get to actually paint him because I was also working on a different show at the time. That I got to come up with that. There's like a brain robot that like it's just like a brain in water that's I painted that. Gosh, I don't know. I'm probably missing things, but it was a lot. It gave us so much work. I didn't get to do this, but we did all of the what they're called. I literally have a mini one what they're called. The things that they wear on the wrist.
Oh,
Uh,
the Pip Boy or something
yeah, we
like
did
that.
all the Pip
Yeah.
Boys. I'm
Oh,
having a
that's
bunch of brain
cool.
farts, but we did all of them, and that was a whole process. So much work, but that was what was so amazing about it. Was just like we were so busy, and it can be tough sometimes, like working like 14-hour days, basically trying to get this stuff out.
Right.
But man, it was just such a treat. I mean, I love my job anyways, so I have fun doing all these things. But once it comes out and you see the buzz and you see everybody talking about the things that you did, that is like one of the best feelings. It's so satisfying.
Yeah, that's awesome. How heavy, like those assault rifles, how heavy are they actually?
It depends because often with props, there can be different weights of things depending on what they are trying to do with it. But it's not too heavy. It's way lighter than you would expect. Like if you were thinking of something that was actually made of metal like that.
I was thinking
Um,
styrofoam. Like sometimes I think like cosplaying when I think props sometimes. And a lot of
yeah,
cosplaying is just, I know it's different completely because like you
yeah,
said weights, but I just like default to like styrofoam.
yeah,
And you
yeah.
just you
No,
make it look super real, but yeah, I imagine weights. So is that's like a part of the, I guess, schematics they give you then? Um the prop master would give you?
they don't normally give things like that. They
Okay.
normally just say like, "Hey, this is what we want. Can you do it?" And then we say yes, almost always, and we figure out how to do it,
Okay.
and we will literally model it and just figure out exactly how to do it. Yeah, they usually just come in with like a maybe a concept art most of the time, I guess, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's awesome though. Super fascinating like type of work that you wouldn't think of when it comes to movies. Like
I
we
know
see all
there's a
the
lot of
props
those.
and yeah, and there's like a whole, you got a whole like building of people working on these things.
Yep, it's literally one tiny part of the movie, and that's like my favorite thing about working on movies is the sheer number of people it takes to actually create the final product is just too many people. It's
Yeah.
not too many, but it's like too many to even conceptualize to me how many people actually work on it, because a lot of the people that will do all these different things don't end up in the credits. Like
Yeah.
I'm not in the credits for any of these things because I mean I work at a shop that makes things. It's like just says prop master, and but I don't take that like in a negative way. Really, it's like just part of the way it is. Like I think that probably credits would go on forever if they did list literally everybody.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. And so you'll see on like IMDb probably like like the prop master themselves, right? Whoever's
Mhm.
a part of the studio or working on the project, the one who reaches out to you, they
Mhm.
get credited because they're the ones orchestrating, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, you should just make an IMDb for yourself. Be like, well,
And
technically,
yeah,
I did
a
do
lot of my
this.
coworkers do, and yeah, I probably should. That's
Yeah.
I guess it's something I don't think about a whole lot, but yeah, for sure I could.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about like bidding wars. A question I had here was about if the customer, I guess I'll refer to them as customers, if they find something unsatisfactory, like is that something they'll determine whether or not they even like it before they select you? Or is there a time where you're selected, you're working on the project, but you give them stuff and they're like, you know what, we're not really feeling this. Can you do something different? I guess how does that communication work? If it happens at
Yeah,
all.
I mean, definitely this that last part that you're saying that oh they get it and then they're like we don't really like this part of it. That totally happens, but it's not so much like they're not satisfied in that they don't like what we did. It's more of like when you have an idea in your head and then someone creates it, it doesn't always look the same as what
Right.
you thought. And so sometimes they will change their minds about things. And I mean, we just pivot and go to what they want. It costs them more money, to be
Yeah.
fair, um, especially if it's not our fault. But like in terms of them being like unsatisfied or anything like that, honestly, it just if it does happen, I don't hear about it. I think that we have a really good relationship with a lot of the people we work with, and they have pretty reasonable expectations. And
Right.
maybe some people would disagree with me in the industry, but I think that, you know, a lot of the stuff that we make can often be just like thrown across the screen sometimes. Like if we're doing, say, like we're doing, there's a scene where someone gets hit in the face with a hammer. They'll usually have a real hammer that they're gonna have on set, but for that scene they're gonna switch it out with a fake one.
Right.
And you can only be so critical on a fake rubber hammer that is going like this, and that's all you see, like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, we do have like the balance of how detailed are we going to get, how critical do we need to be, versus timeline and how much it's going to cost because of the labor that you're putting into it. Every time you put another hour into something, the job costs more money. So you definitely have to like find a balance of detail. But I would say, like, generally, way more often than anything, we just get very happy people that when they receive, because I know that us as the artists there, we are so much more critical. We see everything because we will often be staring like at something this close to our face,
Right.
and you see every flaw. But then anytime that happens to me, then I'll, you know, sometimes get told later, I'll be like kind of disappointed with myself or something. I'd be like, oh, I should have fixed this, but I ran out of time or whatever. And then I'll get feedback that, oh my God, the customer absolutely loved it. They wouldn't stop talking about how cool it was.
Yeah.
So I just don't think we really have issues with that most of the time. But we definitely do have to change things sometimes if they change their mind.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome, because yeah, I could see that being very rewarding, especially because it's like there's such an art element to it, you know, like the company I work for, I'm just a EHS specialist, environmental health and safety safety guy, but we make paint, but for like automotive manufacturers. So we just batch out a bunch of paint and we send it to like Honda, Toyota, whatever. So there's not like there is an art to it. We do have departments that like focus, they really tune like the color and stuff, but there's not like this artistic design like that you'll see at your place, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it's very formulaic.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally formulas.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's really rewarding to be able to get a job and be like, you know what, I think that the kind of the color on this gun should kind of be like this or whatever, and then you get to see it even though you're not credited, still being able to see it in the movie. I think that's really sweet.
It is still really rewarding for me. And you know, there are some jobs where it can be pretty like strict in that it doesn't really feel like there's any artistic interpretation. Honestly, it's like, oh, this is a black gun, that's it. It's very simple, and there's not a lot to change about that, especially when you're matching something directly. But and I've done that so much, but I actually love doing that, because I love when I have a prop that I have like, oh, the original, and then I have this replica that I painted that I had to figure out how to make it look exactly the same, and then someone comes up to get it and they go, well, wait, which one's which? Oh my God, so fun.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
What are guns made like? What's the material that like a prop gun's made of? I guess it could vary, but like, what do you see most common?
It's most commonly either like 3D printed, or it's made of rubber.
Oh, that makes sense.
Almost always.
Yeah, because that way, even with rubber, I guess if it I guess it's safer to have it rubber too. It still probably hurts if someone hits you.
Yeah,
but.
I mean, there are different levels of like softness, but I would say that rubber's good because it's so much more sturdy. Like a 3D printed piece is gonna break so easily. If someone drops it, it's gonna snap. Rubber, someone could drop it tons of times and it will be perfectly fine.
Yeah. where do you source? I don't know if you'll know this much, but where do you source like your rubber and stuff, and even the paint? I
Oh,
mean, that's something that you need a lot of, right? Is
yeah.
someone going to the store to buy like a bunch of PPG or something? Like how, like, do you are you a part of that at all, or at least know a little bit about that?
um, yeah. I mean, we have like deals, especially it's like local shops around us that sell paint, that we have deals with. Basically, we had really good relationships with all of them. I'm not sure about our rubber materials, admittedly. I never got to work in the mold room, or I think I did maybe once really early on. But I mean, it's huge quantities of the different
Right.
materials that are required to make it. And yeah, it's paint. It's most often ordered nearby, like at a shop nearby in LA, or ordered online if we need something really special. It also just depends on what we got going on. Sometimes we do paint a lot. Sometimes a job requires a lot of paint staining. And so then we'll all of a sudden be buying a bunch of stains. And I've gotten to do that a lot, which has like been really nice to learn. And like I also have been patining stuff, like a metal patina. Some people don't know what that is, but it's like a chemical that changes the color of metal.
Okay.
Um, and that's also really fun. So that's a whole other like shop that we would purchase that from. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's really cool. It sounds like you work a lot with the local community, and I think just as a community in general, when you have so many different jobs that work with each other, I think that, I don't know, I think that that's pretty awesome. I think that a lot of communities benefit when you have a lot of that collaboration going on.
For
Um,
sure. Yeah.
that's really cool. Are you allowed to talk about anything you're currently working on? Or are you guys like
Absolutely not.
okay, sworn to secrecy? I figured as much.
Super.
Wanted to ask. Glad that you're holding strong to that.
Oh
But
yeah.
when you're able to talk about it, I can't wait to hear about it though. Whatever it is. 'Cause that's gonna be, I imagine, cool stuff there.
It's
And
very cool, yes.
random side question: when strikes happen, does that like it could affect you because no one's working on stuff? But like, are you guys working during strikes? Like, how does
Yeah,
that whole thing work?
it really heavily affected us,
Okay.
sadly. I feel like I was probably one of the more fortunate ones. The timing was crazy, honestly, because at the same time that was happening, we were moving to our new building, and there was so much work that needed to be done, like in the building, that it gave a lot of us work in the meantime. But even then, oh my god, the slowdown that happened with that was really awful, and it was hard. I felt a lot worse for the people that are like day players or trying to get on shows like on set. I worked on set very early in my career, and it was for a short amount of time. And I couldn't have imagined trying to find work in that. I mean, you literally couldn't find work. You'd have to do other things outside of movies and TV. So yes, it did. It heavily
Yeah.
impacted us, sadly, but we made it through.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Coming out on top is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks that those strikes. It seems to just it completely nukes the industry. Like, and just even you as an example, it just shows that when these strikes are happening, every day that things aren't going on, people aren't working. I mean, that's affecting thousands of people.
Oh, hundreds
Thousands.
of thousands of people, honestly, here, even just here in LA, there's so many people that work. It's literally affected catering people, like people
Wow. Yeah,
that,
I didn't even think about that.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
true. And every single level of filmmaking was affected, and I know a lot of people that had to leave. Just they had to move. Even now, still, it's a struggle for a lot of people here. We are not filming enough, and I think also people got very accustomed to like 2019. That was 2019 going into 2020 was the craziest time, and when that got taken away, it was just like people were not prepared to not have that income
Right.
anymore. Especially here, it's so freaking expensive here. But I love LA. Don't get me wrong. It just is. It's hard to watch everybody struggling for sure.
Yeah. And I imagine that, and I imagine the bounce back from the fires too has been pretty tough. Is everything looking like a little better? I know that because of the fires, I mean that cuts out a lot of work that could be happening in LA. A lot of
Yeah.
filming that could be happening. I mean that's just like cutting out a lot of work, but at the same time people are losing their homes and so many tragedies happening too. How's that
Oh,
bounce back been? Has that
uh, yeah. It's been hard with that too. The fires were really like it was a way to kick everybody down while they were already down.
right?
I know people personally, even at my work, that whose homes were affected, if not lost.
Yeah,
Which is horrible. That was like one of the most upsetting times
right.
here, on top of everything. And yeah, a lot of things got paused, if not straight out, like they just went and filmed somewhere else, which was very disappointing. And with my work specifically, like I said, we ship things, we ship a lot of stuff around. So we're maybe affected a little bit less, but the people who live here and go to work on set, that was so impacting for them because all of the stuff's shut down and then some of the productions went somewhere else and they go find crew there. Yeah, it is hard, but we the outpouring of support and love that came from the fires was so incredible. It was like a huge reminder to me of how much I love Los Angeles and I love the people here, and just there was so much work done to help people get back on their feet, and it was beautiful. It was like very inspiring, and obviously I wish it didn't happen, but it also was like a really good reminder of how great this place is, and people are very critical of Los Angeles, I think, but I love it, and it's a magical place for so many reasons, including the film industry. All these people are so incredibly talented, and so I
Yeah.
believe in us. I think that we're gonna be fine. Um, it's just it's rocky for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I mean that's a great way to put it. That's a very optimistic way of putting it too, is just that the silver lining being just the all the support that you guys get. And it gives you faith in people, right? You're like, you know what, humanity isn't all that bad, you know? It's just unfortunate because you kind of wish you get that reminder other times.
More often,
Not
yeah.
when
Not
tragedy
just in
happens.
tragedies. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally, totally. I think
Uh,
that I really try to I try to I do really try hard to remember. I'm generally a pretty positive, optimistic person, and so I try to just maintain that.
that's good. That's good. And my last question here. So I'm it's gonna be a two-parter because I'm curious about this. Just knowing how much you love film. So the first part of it is like, do you ever plan on or have you tried writing or were interested in that aspect of like creating something yourself with like writing a script or doing some other things on set, directing maybe? Have you ever thought about doing that? Been interested?
I would say I haven't. I mean, it's like sure I've considered it in like the idea of what I like that. I'd say when I was younger, I was very experimental, and I remember I used to sometimes try and write stories, but would never finish. And I would lose interest so quickly. I think that writing is not for me, to be honest.
That's fair.
Uh, I admire people who can do it, and like I have friends that are screenwriters and all that, and I think that it's super awesome. Not for me. I am not so much like an idea person. I don't think I like to follow somebody else's lead with their idea, and I work best with a set goal and a set like way that somebody else wants something done, and I like to help accomplish that. That is just like best for my brain. I don't have a good brain for trying to like complete my own projects. It's yeah, even my own stuff. Like it's hard. That picture, the La La Land picture, it took me so long. And I'm glad I finished it, but I was getting real close to not doing it because you get tired of doing it. So
Yeah.
that's why I like using the artistic abilities at my work, because I don't have a choice. I have to get something done. It is literally my job, and so that really motivates me to keep going and get it all the way through.
Yeah, it's I imagine it's way more helpful when someone's like, all right, this has to be done at this time. It's your
Yes.
job and it needs to be done now.
Yeah,
Because I mean, there are so many projects.
I lock in.
I've tried, like I've written part of it, and then I just like, I don't know if you've ever watched Jimmy Neutron, but Professor Calamitous, the guy who doesn't finish anything.
Yeah.
Some of my friends call me that because there's a lot of times where I'll like start a bunch of stuff and I just don't
That's
finish
a deep cut. Your friends call you that? That's hilarious.
Yeah, Professor Calamitous. But
oh man, great
getting
show.
better with it. But yeah, being in like a workplace and like having that deadline, I imagine that you know, that helps you just like get it done.
Yes, for sure. I need that.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're doing is kind of, it's like the perfect job for you too. You know, you get to tap into so many different things. And I guess like my follow-up is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I honestly just want to keep doing this. I just want to keep doing the same thing. I hope that I can. I love my company. I love the people I work with. I love my day-to-day. Like, obviously there are going to be days that are harder and where I'm doing something extra difficult or extra like finicky, like things just don't go right, and it can just suck very sometimes, but that's so rare. Honestly, I would be happy just doing this for the rest of my life. And I know that's kind of crazy to say, and maybe people might think that's a little naive of me to say. And I do get that from some of the older people in the industry. They see how like, I'm so, let's go, let's do it. And they go, you're not gonna be like that in 10 years, you know. But I don't know. This job feels like the most perfect like thing I could have ever ended up doing for me. I still don't even understand like the coincidences that had to lead up to me getting to where I am. But man, it's where in some moments where I feel like my life is movie, because that was like a movie level pathway for me and to get to where I am now. And so I just want to keep doing what I'm doing as long as movies are still being made here, please.
Yeah.
I hope so. I love it. Yeah, I just want to keep doing this. I mean, maybe like some sort of manager role in paint at some point, but I am honestly very happy just doing this till I'm like 75. Sure, that's fine with me.
And as long as like bills are getting paid, I mean, like, you love what you're doing, able to pay bills, like you're good, you're set.
And sometimes I just go like, dang, they pay me to do this and I would do it for free because it's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. How many years have you been there?
I have been at this company for, I mean, there was like a little bit of the gap with COVID, but regardless of that, if you don't count the little gap that there was, it's just almost 6 years. So not even that long, which is so sad because like I got into the company in 2019 and then not even a year later, COVID hit. And I was so sad. I was devastated because I loved working so much. And then when they called me back in, it was like, I literally cried. And people thought that was so ridiculous. They were like, what, you didn't like that little vacation? And I was like, I want to work. This is the coolest job ever. I want to work.
How long were you guys out of work when COVID hit?
Let's see. I didn't come back it was like March to December 2020.
Wow.
There were some other people that came back sooner than me because I was so early on in my career at the time. But yeah, it was brutal. I mean, I know a lot of other people can relate to how brutal COVID was. It was so sad that I got this thing and I was like, 2019 is the best year of my life. And then that happened and it was like, but man, I'm so glad that they brought me back, because not everybody got to come back, and I'm so grateful that they liked me enough to keep me around.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I know during COVID, I was working at an ice cream factory, and we were
Oh.
deemed as an essential business, so we kept running. But the thing about COVID, especially being involved with like safety stuff, like OSHA,
Hmm.
it was like 6 feet apart. Like all the lunchrooms looked like prisons because like they had everything partitioned. It was crazy. It was
Oh,
surreal.
yeah,
Um,
our place was like that for a while. It was like, oh, and I don't even think anybody was sitting in the break room. It was very much, it was hard being
yeah,
like that. I'm like such a social person, and I did not care for that at all.
yeah, yeah. I feel that. But very, very cool. So, um, I guess it's hard for you to plug something because of the nature of
Yeah.
your work, but is there anything that you kind of want to leave off on at the end here? Anything that you want to plug? Even any recommendations like, oh, Sing Sing is a great movie. Everybody
Oh,
watch that.
well,
Like,
yes, I've been saying that for as soon as I saw it. I was like, everybody go see Sing Sing. And
yeah.
people probably were getting annoyed with me because I kept telling everybody to go see Sing Sing. But yeah, go
Yeah.
see Sing Sing. Go buy it. It's out on Blu-ray now. Fantastic. I think what I would just leave off with, because yeah, I have like an Instagram, but it's private because I'm just, oh, I'm weird about that, I guess. But I would say, just to leave off for anybody listening, that you should go back to the movies. And I understand, like, if people feel that it's really expensive, I totally get that. I think that it is worth trying to make time for it. At least, like, go on a Sunday matinee, go to the $6 movie theater. Like, I really recommend, especially going to see independent movies. Just, I don't want to see uh theaters die out. I think it's still a magical experience. And think of, like, when you're watching a movie, next time you're watching a movie, I recommend like really thinking about all the people it took to make, and like how much heart there is even in a movie that feels like it has no heart, feels soulless. And a lot of people don't love the Marvel movies, and I know they're not doing great right now, but I promise that there are thousands and thousands of people that worked on it, that put their whole heart and soul into it, and put hours and hours of their life into it, and that they're so proud of it. And I love movies, and I hope that the love for it stays despite, some people's negative feelings about them. Yeah, I guess that's all. That's it.
Yeah, that beautiful note to end on. Thank you for joining me today, Amber. It was great. Like I mentioned before, we've been friends on Facebook for probably over a decade, if not a
Probably.
decade. Because I'm pretty sure I joined that Facebook group, that for anybody listening, Facebook film group or it's called Film Club, but that was like 2012, I think, 2011, 2012. So
Yeah, that makes sense then. So that sounds about right. It's been a long time. I'd have to
yeah,
check, but yeah, we've been friends on there for a long time. So yeah, thank you for
yeah.
having me as well. I really appreciate you inviting me. It's super fun. I love talking about my job and movies and all that. So